start with our series on answer writing. Now, in this series of answer writing, our main aim would be to introduce some of the common mistakes that students do. So, when we are talking about, let's say, an answer which talks on ozone layer, we would understand the difference between a good answer and a bad answer, considering few of the important points. So, what are the characteristics of a good answer? First of all, if you are introducing a diagram, it should have a proper structure, a process if it is there, and a flowchart for the same. Then include points and data. Also, if there are paragraphs, there should be minimum 3 paragraphs that you should introduce, and whatever is the information that you want to convey, that whole gist should be in one paragraph. It should not be like some information is in the first paragraph, a little is carried in the second, and then in the third. No. And it's important that if you are not able to categorize your information like that, it's good to go for points in that case. So let's understand the answer which talks on ozone layer in case of Montreal Protocol. What would be a good starting versus relatively not that good starting? Okay, I should not exactly say this as bad starting, but this is a kind of okay starting. So let's talk about a normal starting. So normally when we talk about ozone layer and Montreal Protocol, we would say that hydrofluorocarbons are harmful. They destroy the ozone. They destroy the ozone, the layer that protects us from ultraviolet rays, and therefore it also causes human impact. It causes greenhouse effect, and all of us should unite in the form of Montreal Protocol for a fight against this. Now this is an answer that I would say it's not a bad answer typically, but it is a kiddish answer. That means a small child when asked to write would write something like this. But when you are appearing for your UPSC answers, it is required that you prove yourself with a sound knowledge. Now, knowledge would come only when you have read. So, first important thing is you must have extensive reading about any topic that you are asked to write. Second, you would be looked on as an administrator. So, you might be asked to take the minutes of the meeting. In that case, you should be able to understand what is being discussed between the delegates, and then you should be able to gist those or summarize those. So, how could we have a good starting? India in 2017 launched the second phase of the program to eliminate hydrofluorocarbons. Hydrochlorofluorocarbons, and this was under Montreal Protocol. Why was it? To reduce the impact of ozone through ozonolysis. Now, having successfully eliminated CFC and halogens, ozone layer or ozone cells and ESC under the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change are taking steps to remove the hydrofluorocarbons by 2030. Now, within this one paragraph, how much varied information that we have introduced is what we would see. So, what kind of information is demonstrated from just these 4 lines that we have focused? First is your knowledge about Montreal Protocol, knowledge about India's policy, how ozone layer destructs through ozonolysis. So, reading this paragraph itself, you can surely say that a student has a sound knowledge or a basic understanding of the concept, and there is probably no need to read the rest of the answer. And that should be the first impression, reading the first few lines of your answer. And that was the idea, the only thing that matters, right? Now, what flow you have to maintain is important, and that flow should be consistent throughout your answer. For example, here the flow is India. Now, how India is a key actor, how India is expressing itself as a major stake player in Montreal Protocol. The theme, which is the Montreal Protocol, is important for ozone layer and not for greenhouse gases, right? It's again important. And then finally, you can just up your answer with an overall summary. So this is how the knowledge itself demonstrates most of the things. So if you have good sound knowledge, you are all set with a good answer writing. Now, What are the key things that you can include? Diagram, at least one that you can bring in this answer. I'm not saying every answer, but in this answer you can bring in successive timelines. When was phase 1 brought? What were the estimates by phase 1? When was phase 2 brought? What was the timeline as 2030 by phase 2? So those are kind of milestones or timelines that could be given in the answer in the form of diagram that can be explained. Then what are the other key things? Montreal Protocol, the role of developed versus developing nations, then the key dates, that could be the ratification, the date of protocol, the date of convention, the key timelines from India's perspective, when India signed, when it ratified, then the structure of the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, ozone layer, ESC. So those are some of the important things that you must have in mind as a framework. You need not to bring all the structure of Ministry of Environment into the answer, but yes, if you have a structure, that would reflect in the answer itself. Then why is it important to India and what are the key successes? Whether we were able to implement on a timely basis, whether we were able to phase out, what was the percentage that we was able to actually bring this under control. And then the first phase and the second phase. The details on the first phase, the details on the second phase. Since it's more contemporary, we would have our higher focus on second phase. First phase would be relatively lesser in focus. And then the overview about the ozone reduction, the process of ozonolysis and the free radical formation. So those would be some of the key things that you would demonstrate as you are writing your answer. So the idea of this lecture was to help you understand what is the real difference when you are actually bringing these two answers. So if you now compare these two answers, you can say, okay, in the first answer we do have certain dates, we do have certain scientific terminologies like ozonolysis, which is not there in the second answer. In the first answer, we do have the relevance of Montreal Protocol to ozone layer and ozone depletion. However, in the second answer, we are talking about everything, but in a very superficial content which is okay for a school grade student, not for a student who is seeking to appear for your UPSC Mains. So that's the basic idea that you must have in mind while you are writing your answers. So good luck for your upcoming examinations, and definitely those who have sent in their answers, we are providing regular feedbacks to the candidates. Wish you very good luck. Have a wonderful evening.